Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
You free, putting that intention in the world. How are y'all? Episode 12.
Episode 12 is fantastic. And I don't know, I could see us doing this to episode 140. We could go on like this forever. Can you see that? Can you see us as little old ladies on Zoom talking about
Yeah, for as long as General Hospital is general hospitaling, I'm here. I'm gonna be real with y'all. This hospital show has not been great lately, and so I'm really continuing to watch and not just read recaps so that I can record with y'all and like just jump back in when it gets good. But we'll talk more about that.
Okay. All right. How was your Thanksgiving break? If you had one.
I don't want to go back
to Turkey Day, but this is actually the first time I said Thanksgiving all week because I refuse to say that. I keep calling it like Turkey Day or something else.
Thanks taking is a favorite of mine.
Right.
Feels much more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back to work tomorrow, but here we are. Gotta work.
Right. We do. We all have to work until. Actually, we should monetize this. So that's all we have to do. We need to figure out how to get advertising and and just have someone pay us to talk about General Hospital all day.
Hit us up, ABC. We're vaccinated.
We are. I actually got my flu shot. That's what I did. I got my flu shot. I went on the hunt for a COVID booster, and all these places were like, you got to make an appointment. I was like, but I got my flu shot. I got my COVIDs. I'm ready to go. I'm immune city here in this in this body. Taking my vitamins, doing it all.
Bam, we out here. Let's get into it. Let's get into the show. Y'all ready for this recap of a short week?
Please, I don't remember what happened.
I've watched these 3 episodes at least 3 times, and each time I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. Yeah, it's been bad. All right, let's do it. Okay. We start the week with the baby swap that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Chase busts into Valentine's hospital room and tells him that he is the father of Brooklyn's baby. Valentine initially doesn't believe him, but Chase lies and lines the timing up when BLQ was sitting on his couch and says that he has a paternity test to prove it. Of course, nobody has asked anyone about any paternity test. Nothing has been checked. The only paternity test that we've had lately is somebody's bald head, and we've had maternity test by necklace. Neither here nor there. He pretends to be angry with BLQ and said she lied to him. She backs the story up and says that it was all for ELQ shares. They leave Valentine alone with his heartbreak. In a corridor, BLQ hugs Chase and confirms he knows that Bailey is actually Louise. Valentine calls Anna, who can tell something is wrong with her boo. She tells him that they caught Peter and he's in WSB custody. He tells her not to turn her back on Peter, and she says she won't. Though somehow she does, because Peter is with some WSB agents that allow him to call Maxie and tell her he's on his way home. Anna also has bad news for No Cassadine Island crew. There's no sign of life in the tunnel where they left Jason. Sorry, JSAM and Liaison fans. Seems like J-Tunnel is in game now. Anna receives a call from Maxie to tell her that Peter contacted her. Anna says that Peter is in custody and both Liesl and Britt are okay. Britt feels a tremendous amount of guilt because Jason had only come to help her. Back in Port Charles, we see Jax run into Carly at Rice Plaza. He is surprised that Josh didn't tell her he was moving back to Australia for business. He will probably join the anti-vax movement there, but moving on. Carly tells him that he blew up his life for Nina. Jax makes some comments about Carly's time as a mob leader, and he's off to Charlie's where he sees Nina and Sonny together. Nina and Sonny are waiting to hear an update on Brando, Sasha, and the baby because, as Nina tells him, Sasha was rushed into emergency surgery. Nina tells Sonny that even though Sasha betrayed her, her heart still loves her like a daughter. After more coded and explicit conversation about their own relationship, Sonny goes to the hospital to be there for Brasha. Carly meets him there, and they find out from Maxie that Sasha is in the ICU and that baby boy, middle name Mike, is in the NICU. When Carly asks Sonny how he knew to come to the hospital, he allows her to mistakenly believe it was because Brando called him, when in actuality, it was because Nina told him. Carly commits to trying to stop focusing on Nina, if only. Speaking of Nina, she shows up to the nursing station to get an update and happens upon Epiphany and Valentine arguing about him trying to leave against doctor's orders. Valentine tells Nina that Bailey is not his, and she feigns shock. They talk, and Valentine says that this is karma for what he did to her. Nina tells Valentine she forgives him and is there to get an update on Sasha. She encourages him to try and forgive Brooklyn too. Elizabeth allows Nina to visit with Sasha, and they share hugs and tears. Carly and Sonny talk with and support Gladys. While Sasha is okay, the baby didn't get enough oxygen before delivery and is having some difficulties. While Brando goes to see the baby, Carly and Gladys go to the cafeteria to get food and talk about being grandmas. Finally, at the hospital, Maxie talks with Chase and BLQ in the chapel and finds out the update on their plan. When Maxie tells him that Peter is in WSB custody, Chase assumes it's all over and Maxie can claim her child. Maxie says that she doesn't trust it because of Peter's connections and that he never faces justice. They decide they have to lean into the lie and tell everyone that Bailey is Chase's. Moving to one of multiple Port Charles Thanksgiving days that we will have over the week, Curtis tells Portia about Cat Daddy / his daddy, Marshall. She encourages him to come to her house for dinner if he's up to it and to warn TJ. Flash to Cat Daddy with TJ at the hospital with Marshall asking him to have a minute of his time and TJ looking very skeptical. We also had some really cute moments between Austin and, I wanted to call him John McBain when I saw him and Austin together, but between Austin and Finn. Olivia finds Austin at the hospital and apologizes to him, saying she's going to get Leo the support he needs. They actually said help, but again, GH needs to update his language because he does not need help, he needs support. She also invites him to Thanksgiving, the same Thanksgiving where BLQ just told Ned that Chase is Bailey's father, and somehow Ned is blaming Chase despite Brooklyn saying that she lied to him. We close out with a very domestic Sante blended family moment. Their kids are watching movies, they are sharing stories and kisses on the couch, the moss is in front of them, and there's a knock on the door, and to Sam's surprise, it turns out to be Drew. What did y'all think of this week? This 3-day week?
I'm sorry. My hot take on that last scene was like, oh, it's Ryan Lavery.
I was like, why is Ryan Lavery? Especially when he cut off the scruff. I was like,
yeah, he was all clean shaven and everything. Straight Ryan Lavery for me. So, yeah.
I liked your recap more than I liked the week.
I think it definitely some showcase of other characters, but not characters I was looking for. And so there's that. I was hoping, well, I guess we're going to see the Thanksgiving scenes this week. Yeah, Steve Burton's gone. Jason is ended. Now we have to, kind of sit through the morning scenes.
Not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be positive and trying to figure. I'm trying. So bear with me. I'm trying to find positive. There are some scenes that happened that I liked, and I will talk about it when we go into who I am going to award with great performances. But yeah. overall,
Let's just go ahead and get into it.
like overall wasn't.
I don't have anything positive to say at this on a high level. I do have positive things to say about certain moments in the week, but we all know how I felt about this week. I'll say one more thing. It was an interesting choice to focus on these storylines when you knew you only had 3 days in the week. It was an interesting choice and a bad one. A bad, interesting choice. Yeah.
Such a Libra over there.
But we're going to start with positivity before we go full throttle into how we really felt about the week. And so let's start with Tonya letting us know who's your standout performance of the week and why.
So I would have to say, I never cared about Brando and Sasha's storyline until this week. and I think that would probably have to do more with the acting than the actual what happened, because pregnancy baby drama is a staple, and so it wasn't shocking. It wasn't like, oh my god, I'm so surprised, but the reaction and the emotions that brought out on the actors was really great. And I would have to say this was the first time in my conscious memory that I've seen Johnny Wachter actually emote in a way that actually got to me. and that's even after, Dev passed away. I mean, yes, it was a little sad. I mean, I got to see that he had some emotion, but really, the revelation of him being a father and how important that is, and the that he might lose both Sasha and his baby, just brought out some great emotion in him. So I'm gonna have to give it up to him this week that he did a great job. I also want to say, Sophia Matson also did a great job. I kind of have to give it up to her makeup artist as well, because I just kept noticing that, that her lipstick went very well with the red of her rim of her eyes when she was crying. And I was just like, oh, she looks so beautiful, yet she's so upset. So I had to give it up to the makeup artist. But I think they did very well this week. And so I have to give them their props. If they are going to be submitting Emmy reels, I think this week for them would be great.
Yeah.
So that's all I have.
I mean, I don't think that there's anybody, I mean, I don't know, whatever, people have different opinions, but I don't see how you could see this week and not like agree with that.
Yeah.
They really bought it. And one of the notes I had was like, the Brasha baby storyline would have been more satisfying if we'd actually seen a Brasha storyline altogether. They actually like really delivered, and I think that like some of the cute moments they've had in the past have been good, but those two actually deserved a storyline. They deserve what we give or what is given to like Milo and to other people because they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we got almost felt like really Grey's Anatomy, where it was like you had like a couple who like came in who you didn't really know, who like delivered this powerhouse, but like it's a soap. And so they deserved, and we deserve to see more than that. Like we deserve to have seen more of the pregnancy, and I know that Sophia was gone, but like if they were going to keep her pregnant for so long, we could have seen more. Like we could have seen her like getting ready for the baby and painting a nursery and like doing all the things that they've kind of given us the exposition to say that they've done. I would have loved to see that, but despite all of that, I mean, they knocked it out of the park. I got misty-eyed when I watched it. I had never thought I cared about them specifically as a couple, not because they were bad, because they didn't have anything to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess they tried to prop them up a little bit this week, with having her go for a walk around the hospital and then talking about, him finding out that they were having a son. And those are cute little scenes, but I do agree they deserve a more meaty storyline.
Yeah. This actually is a great transition into favorite moment of the week, because this was mine. So I will say, if I had to rank the two of them, which it feels hard because they were both needed to be present in the ways that they showed up for the scenes to work, but I would give Sophia a slight edge. over Johnny, just because she really brought the tears for me. But they both, like, when I was watching, I was with Tracey and I just kept turning to her and being like, Sophia and Johnny can act. They can act. Where have they been? I just watching them grapple with their baby's diagnosis as new parents was just really, really heart-wrenching. When Sasha blamed herself, that
line of like, I already feel like I'm a failure as a mom.
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah.
And Dr. Navarro, I also liked the educational pieces with Dr. Navarro and Liz explaining that placental abruption isn't her fault. And as like a reproductive health justice person, I really liked the way they're kind of destigmatizing there being issues in pregnancy. And there's so much that we don't know about pregnancy, why it goes wrong. There's like so many different layers to miscarriage, stillbirth, but also just general like pregnancy drama. And I don't feel like the show always does the best job of that. So I appreciated the use of the hospital staff as well, although Liz, my God, give this girl a story that is not her just being someone's nurse. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I loved Brando being a supportive partner. He's very dreamy and strangely existential. Like when he was like, I've seen some awesome sunrises and sunsets. And I was like, you know, Brando's the kind of existential bro that poses like thirst traps of himself mountain climbing, but his captions are always deep as fuck. That's what I see for Brando, and I like it. And I just think their chemistry is so good. Like I've never been super invested in them, similar to what you all saw, but I always enjoyed their chemistry and I always thought they had potential. And it's obvious, right? We've already named this Sophia's pregnancy storyline change, like her pregnancy itself changed the storyline. But GH has been hiding these two away, and it's a shame. I really hope that this storyline actually launches them into something meatier and isn't just like tucked away once the holidays are over and wherever this ends up going. I hope that it's a launch for something more from them, because we also need couples that are their age, that have chemistry, that are super watchable, and for them to pull this out after kind of being off the canvas for so long. I'm just proud of them. I'm proud of them. Good for them. What about you, Tracey?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you, Sandra, like that and we'll talk more about this, I know, but like we watched Beyond Salem and I was like, oh shit, like this one couple is always in bed together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Brando and Sasha could actually bring that energy. Sasha actually brought a little bit of interesting energy out of Michael when they were together. Which is why like the swap was like so ridiculous, because like Sasha has more chemistry with Michael and Chase has more chemistry than with Willow. And so, but anyway, that to say that they actually are needed, and I hope that they do get some like fun, sexy storyline that is not just about them mourning their baby. I think that's important. And to Tanya's point, like that's a really great Emmy material, but they are the kind of couple that GH actually needs. And so I'm hoping that we see a little bit more of that from them. My favorite moment, I'm just gonna say Peter putting out his hand and then jumping towards that damn gun. That was the cartoonish shit I've ever seen. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's lean into it. If we got to continue to see Peter, like, let's just like, enjoy how ridiculous he is. If we got to continue to see him, I feel like I'm being punished. I feel like the longer that we say we don't like him, the more they make us see him. So I'm gonna just say, like, I like Peter. So hopefully, like, balance that out. I mean, I couldn't even say it with a straight face, but we're gonna see if like hopefully that like gets us somewhere. And then the other like my highlight just on some petty shit was when Jax was like, I'm on the outs with everyone except for Joss and Alexis. And I was like, actually, if you saw that last Alexis scene, you might be on the outs with her too. But I just love that Jax got written off. You know, Ingo is our enemy. And so I love that he got written off with like no real goodbye. Just like, take your ass back to Australia, bitch. Like, you're out of here. I loved it. And that was my favorite. Tonya?
Well, I'm listing this as my favorite because again, I called it. Valentina and Nina had that conversation. And even though the conversation wasn't all that spectacular, I mean, but there was that acknowledgement that, you know, this is what that he realized that this is what he had did to Nina, and it's almost a little bit of karma. Not quite sure if he's going to do as she, you know, suggested and just forgiving Brooklyn, because I have a feeling from according to the previews that I think Valentine is going to go back and get his shares from the Quartermaine. So, and I think it's only fair because she basically did that whole, well, he, in his mind, she did that whole thing just so she can get her shares back, and she shouldn't be able to prosper and win off of that deception. So I think it, you know, I'm not even seeing that necessarily as revenge. Is more of, well, I'm getting back what you stole from me type thing. But what I like and what I liked best about it is because again, it shows how much Valentine grows from the mistakes that he's made. Like he's recognizing that, you know, this is exactly what I did to Nina, and it's horrible. It's the worst feeling that I've ever felt. And I'm realizing this is what I did to you. And so I'm going to have to figure out a way to cope. I really wish that they had told him about, you know, the baby, about being Bailey. But at the same time, I think him not knowing kind of plays into how his reaction is going to be, is like the fallout of it. I think they want to extend that a little bit because that just gives more juicy material to James. So, so I'm okay with him not knowing. But so that I also liked, there were some very great lighthearted moments between Carson and Gladys. Again, I'm liking Gladys, you know, mellowing out and not necessarily being 100% crazy, and just, you know, recognizing she's a grandma now and that she needs to, you know, approach this in a different way. So I liked those scenes. And I also liked, even though, you know, Peter's definitely not my favorite, I think there were some great funny lines that came out when there was the scene with Liesel and them and the waiter. Liesel had some great lines, and so those were very funny. So those were the highlights for me, I think. So what do you want to see more of, Tracey?
Chase in the shower. That's all. Sandra?
Yeah, I actually I play off that very easily. I want more Chase. Not just Chase in the shower, although that was definitely a highlight. Chase, beautiful dopey Chase. Christian thirst trap Chase. We saw so many layers of you this week. We saw detective mastermind Chase. Finally, Chase gets to play something other than stupid. Then moving on to lies for babies only Chase, which is slightly different but related to fake baby daddy Chase. We also got to see Michael Eastman's brother Chase, always a delight.
Yes.
Mirror Chase, who's the most wholesome and dripping wet of them all. We love you, Chase. You know, I don't love the baby swap storyline. In fact, I hate it at this point. I don't enjoy it. But Josh Swickard brings like some much needed fresh fun energy to it. It's not necessarily the storyline I want for Chase, but I accept that that is where we're at. But so I wish it was different, and I think Josh is very charismatic, and I was actually thinking that he brings out really nice performances from his scene partners, and I think we saw a little bit of that this week. I really enjoyed actually Chase shocking Brooklyn by claiming Bailey as his, and how seamlessly she also transitioned from shock to like going along with his lie, because she is supposedly this masterclass liar. And you know, I think I talked about this a little bit last week. I didn't love the earlier scenes between Brooklyn and Valentine. It just wasn't my taste.
Nina and Valentine, or
Brooklyn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't love those last week. But I thought that adding Chase into the mix this week actually brought some really important levity to the melodrama. Because it was, last week was just a little more melodramatic than I felt like I could get into without that kind of levity, that kind of lightness that Chase brought. And I also like Ned brought some goodwill from me sponsoring Trina's exhibit, but he threw it all away when he started blaming Chase for the fake paternity drama. Like, I was incensed. You leave that wholesome boy alone. And at the same time, I actually really look forward to Wally Kurth and Josh Swickard's scenes moving forward with this plot line. I think I could see them just having a lot of fun together, and us having fun watching them, even if it's me having fun getting to hate Ned, because I do kind of love to hate Ned, as we all know. And of course, like, I absolutely loved when Chase showed up at the end of Wednesday's episode with dessert.
Right.
He starts with that fucking stupid, goofy grin, and it just falls when he sees the look that Ned is giving him. So, like, just the best part of the storyline is goofy, wholesome Chase in cahoots with, you know, lightly amoral Maxie and BLQ. And it feels lifted from like a Lifetime or Netflix Christmas movie. And as we know, that is Josh Swickard's sweet spot. So I feel like Chase has been so underutilized. He continues to be. If you can get me, lightly amoral me, to like someone as wholesome as Chase, keep going.
I love what you said about his Christian thirst traps, because you know what, Josh Swickard, I think I told both of y'all, like, he posted this like thirst trap on Instagram, and he was like, now read this like religious book, and I loved it. I was like, this is what I need from you, Josh Swickard. This is it. And again, you know, also lightly amoral me loving both Josh Swickard and Chase is like a testament to his charisma.
Yep. Good job, Josh Swickard. This is actually one of all the times I've talked about him on the podcast, this is the time that I've been the least worried that I'm going to get slapped with a restraining order. So I'm just going to leave it there and talk about the gray sweatpants.
I'll talk about the gray sweatpants. Sorry, go ahead, Tonya.
I was going to say, I also liked how he's not letting Brooklyn just run all over him, you know, because he kind of clapped back at her a little bit. And I like that. I want to see more of that, because so far I don't necessarily see people actually not necessarily punishing, but really get at Brooklyn about her bad behavior. And so, you know, I'm liking that he's doing that, except for maybe Maxie a little bit, but still she's not doing it strong enough, because she feels like she still like owes Brooklyn something for having her baby. But I think Chase doesn't have that. And so he's going to tell her, you know, like how wrong she is, when, you know, he's not going to let her run all over him, even though he is still helping her out. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. And I'm just going to have to do this just because, you know, we're team Sprina. I want to see more Sprina. They did not happen this week, and that was a shame. So that's what I want to see more of them next week.
Amen.
Mhm.
Amen.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what we're on is what do we want to see less of? And I don't know what I want to see less of. I just want to see, I want to see Sprina back. Maybe you guys talk and then it'll come to me.
Oh, we actually don't have much of an answer for this because it's kind of almost everything that happened this week I would like less of. And I said this already last week that I hate repeating myself. That was like what I wanted less of, like less repeating myself about the same bad storylines. And yet here we are. Another week, another set of really awful storylines. At least last week, I felt like I was watching two different shows, a good show and a bad show. And this week, I just felt like I was only watching a bad show. I know they only had 3 days, but they still chose to prioritize the storylines that they prioritized. And for me, I'm a spiteful viewer. Like when my least faves, Jason and Jax, I mean, they're not actually my least faves on the show, but like, well, they might be, I don't know. But the fact that like this was like their last week and like their storylines are ending, and I still was just like, whatevs. That's not good. You're not even giving, like, I'm not even getting my spiteful viewer points. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. I have more to say, but it's all shit I've already said. So why bother?
I preemptively want to see less of Carly mourning Jason. I hope I'm wrong. I know I'm not wrong. Carly is about to be a monster to Britt. It's gonna be painful. And we're gonna see her blaming Nina. Like it's gonna be, this happened because Jason had to get away from us because Nina, blah, like it's just not cute. You know what I'm saying? And I talked about this before. Again, here we are repeating ourselves. Like Carly is not wrong with Nina. You know, Nina, I mean, Jax, Ingo is my enemy as a person. Cynthia Washros is fine. I actually like her. I hate Nina. And I don't think she's wrong. The problem is that she's like, if you look at all of Carly's scenes, they all start with her talking about Nina. Girl, find something else to talk about and do. I'm tired of this. Yeah, I'm tired of it. It's just not good. And again, this speaks to prioritizing certain characters, not bringing other characters in. I would love for Christina to be like, I don't care if you're looking for Phyllis. Get the fuck out of here for what you did to my daddy. Like that actually is compelling. Like Nina was like talking to Valentine like, oh, people aren't coming to me with pitchforks, which I was also so confused by this. Does Valentine not know what Nina did?
Right.
Because he was like, what do you mean? I'm sure it wasn't that bad. When they were talking at the hospital. So that was confusing to me. But it's the understanding that Nina, you know that this is how people should be coming to you. But then when Carly does come to you this way, like you act like it's you whispering around town about how like you can't believe it. And so I just don't want to see more of now. Not only is she like going wild about Nina, but then she's also being a monster to Britt. And then, I joked about this, but Sam and Elizabeth have more almost right to grieve Jason, or space for me to grieve Jason, but we know we're going to see so much Britt grieving of Jason. And I just don't think that their story was that important or mattered enough or was invested enough in enough for me to care how Britt feels. I get it. Like, of course she's going to be sad. Of course, you know, it makes sense because Jason was there because of her. But I just know that we're gonna have to like see front and center Britt and Carly, and then the other people who would be more compelling to me to see grieve him, we won't see. So I don't know. That's what I got. Preemptively, that's what I want to see more or less. See less of.
You're
Yeah.
nailing it right on the head. God, idioms are hard.
Yeah, I kind of don't want them to see him being grieved, period. Like, I kind of just want them to be like, oh, he's gone. Anywho, that's what I want to happen. Because yeah, I just I don't want to see that. And I think I think it's gonna bring out the worst in Carly.
We've already seen Jason grieved. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It has not been enough space and time between the last time he was presumed dead. So like, I don't know if it's gonna just be one of those things like nobody believes it. Like, oh well, Jason's made it out of worse before. We're gonna find, whatever. Or if it's gonna be like all out grief of him and a funeral. We've already done this.
Alas, Jason Morgan, we knew you well, and now you're dead. The end.
Well, Sandra, I'm gonna turn it over to. Oh no, go ahead, Tonya.
I was gonna say I do want to see less of Ryan Lavery call Jason my brother, because that threw me for a loop. Because Drew and Jason did not have that relationship where they were calling each other brother. And when he kept saying, "I'm not leaving till without my brother," I was just like, that didn't seem natural to me.
You're like, who's your brother?
I was like, your brother, Ryan Lavery, you don't have a brother. So I think I don't know if they're trying to kind of redo history a little bit in that and trying to make a relationship between them stronger than it actually was. And I'm hoping that they don't do that.
Yeah. It looks like that's what they're gonna do. They're also like playing whack-a-mole with Monica's sons. Like every time one leaves, one comes back. You know what I'm saying?
Did they say that during like Thanksgiving or like, yeah, they were going to say Monica's going to be really sad that Drew's gone. I was like, yeah, but he's coming back. Now Chase is gone. So,
I mean, because the last time they got rid of Jason, then they brought back AJ. Then AJ died, they brought back Drew/Jay. Like it's just always like whack-a-mole for Monica's kids, son specifically. Bring back Emily if we're doing this. Anyway, sorry.
Drew is the superior son.
Without question.
Even played by
Billy.
Ryan Lavery.
Yeah.
But I will say I have a beef that I want to insert in here.
Please.
I would like less of Cameron Matheson pretending like Drew was not shit before he started playing him. So there was an article where Cameron Matheson was being interviewed and he was talking about his take on Drew. And he was like, oh yeah, like I'm taking it a different direction. Like I'm gonna make Drew more connected to his more of a father figure to his family. And like and make him more like down to earth and like all this stuff. And I was like, I'm tired of this Billy Miller slander. You mean you're gonna play Drew the way that Billy Miller played him? Because none of this is new, Cameron. And if you were like, I was just I said on the podcast, I'm reaching a point of acceptance about this Drew Lavery business. And then Cameron Matheson had to go and say that. So I am again angry about Drew.
Yeah, I mean, Drew was way more connected to his family than Jason ever was. He was involved in his kid's life. He was going to the Quartermaines for dinner and breakfast and all that good stuff. He was, I think, wasn't he practically living in the Quartermaine mansion?
Run it down, Tonya. Run it down.
I'm just like, what are you talking about? He wasn't connected or wasn't down. Or he had more of a sense of, he talked more, he smiled, he did all that. He was the anti-Jason.
He was the better Jason.
Yes.
And I say this as somebody who came in, because I've talked about this before, like you sometimes like have affinity for characters who you come in watching. So like I have an affinity for like Tamara Braun's Carly. I have an affinity for I actually never liked Jason and Courtney, but I have affinity for Jay Sam because I was like my first like super couple like in like what I watched. And Drew was better. He just was like Drew actually is who Jason should have grown up to be if he actually cared about the family that he chose, right? Like if he cared about Sam, if he cared about his kids, because Jason was just very one note and it wasn't exciting. And I think that is part of the reason some of the mob stuff is just not as interesting anymore, because they've played it all out. The mob, like, what else can you do? How many times can you say Jason has to leave a woman because like the mob is too much? And then that's how they ended Jason and Sam, which is like the reason that Jason and Sam kind of worked, because that wasn't like the point of them. It was why Jason and Britt in the early stages was kind of interesting. Like here you have somebody who's like kind of a mess and unattached with chemistry with Jason. Great, let them do it. But the idea that we have to play over and over and over again, like all of these women leaving Jason, is just annoying and not good. And to Sandra's point, Drew was great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember how he was when he found out Oscar was his kid. He was on it immediately.
Right.
Like, you know, like he was
wow.
raising Jason's kids. Danny was his. Like Jake was like bringing him and Jason together. So I don't know, like if Cameron Matheson didn't like watch any clips before he came on. He was too busy, you know, doing a Christmas movie with Jenny Garth and just like didn't like take the time to research his character. And also, wasn't it that he thought he was playing somebody else? Who was the person he thought he was playing?
He thought he was playing Rick.
Oh, Rick Lansing?
Yeah, that's what it was, the same article where that came out. He thought he was playing Rick Lansing.
That's right.
And then he got hired and they're like, no, you're playing Drew. And that's when he decided that he was going to take his own spin on it. Cameron, just take it easy, man.
Maybe that's why he
kept off. Close your mouth.
Maybe that's why he kept saying my brother, because he just really didn't do that research that he should have. Maybe. I mean, I'm still giving him a chance, but yeah, dude, Drew was already great. So,
like, run with the greatness that you were given. Stop trying to white man the white man. All right.
All right. So Sandra and I watched Beyond Salem because, you know, we were off. And so we were like, let's see what's going on over here on another soap. I tweeted about it. I was very jealous about what was happening in Salem. And it wasn't happening on our hospital show, but I'm going to pass it to Sandra to like kind of break that down and then talk about like what the possibilities for GH are with it.
Yeah. So we have been talking about watching Beyond Salem for a while. I remember when I first was seeing the previews for it, being like, oh, I know just enough about days to be dangerous. Like, maybe I should watch this. Maybe this will, you know, maybe I know just enough to also enjoy it. So this is like I guess for folks who are wondering, we're not Days super fans. So please take everything we say from that perspective of like, I was a casual Days viewer in the mid-90s. And Tracey, you watched Days for a lot longer.
I grew up on Days.
Yeah. So Tracey also had a bit more of the background. But I also kind of felt like that was like kind of an ideal audience for Beyond Salem. They brought back a lot of longtime favorite vets as well as like highlighting current ones. And everyone had their own storyline, right? There was a storyline happening in Miami, in Phoenix, in Amsterdam. Yeah, there were places that were happening. Everyone had their own storyline, but it all converged into one storyline that felt like Thanos from Avengers. Look at me with my references of things I don't really know about. What was that, Tracey?
I'm very proud of you in these references.
Thank you. So I really appreciated actually that I had seen some take about both Beyond Salem and the upcoming Christmas movies. And the take had been actually that the target audience was not people who hadn't been watching, that the target audience was current days viewers. And I was confused by that because it felt like actually Beyond Salem and the Christmas special definitely feel like invitations to people who to like come back home again, right? Like to like play on the nostalgia. I mean, that's also what's happening with the Marlena possession storyline that's happening on Days right now. Like, and I really appreciate that invitation to come back home, even though Days was never my home. Like I watched it because I spent a summer in the mid 90s with my Ninang and Cerritos. But I felt like I also knew enough to really enjoy, while also doing a little bit of like Googling and Wikipedia on the side. And I really, well, first of all, I enjoyed that there was a whole storyline with 3 gay people in it. Can you imagine that happening
Or
on GH? 4?
yeah, it was the couple, their friend, and the other dude.
Oh, he's not gay. Chad.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, let me be quiet.
Chad's just a straight cis guy whose besties are gay, or at least that's my understanding. Days fans, please feel free to correct us. This is just, you know, the casual viewer leading the casual viewer. But yes, I also really appreciated that aspect of like, there is this cis white straight dude whose besties are gay. What were you gonna say, Tonya?
Yeah, are you going to kind of recap a little bit of the story that you guys watch? Because I've not watched Days for a long time, so I have no idea what's going on in that show at all, or Beyond Salem.
I don't have a recap of Beyond Salem prepared. I don't feel like I, as a casual Days viewer, am like prepared to give a recap when I know that there are like Days podcasts out there who could do a much better recap than I could. I'm just mostly kind of lifting up some aspects that were cool, and then we're going to talk about some improvements that we want to see on GH, just as inspiration. So yeah, I appreciated the queer scenes. I appreciated that there was a whole like storyline just devoted to having that many queer people. I enjoyed actually the drag storyline, which I wasn't expecting to. They end up, I will give this slight recap. One of the jewels, they're all looking for jewels in each of the storyline, and the jewels all come together on a peacock, like a jeweled peacock, which was the best product placement I've ever seen on a soap. Like, fuck those Disney Plus plugs. The peacock plugs are where it's at. But the jewel that the gays and Chad are trying to find, a drag queen is holding them. And the drag queen says that they can have the jewel if one of them wins the drag contest. And it ends up being Chad, actually, who wins the contest. He really put his heart and soul. And I normally would be like upset about the straight man winning the drag contest, but you know what? He did a really good job. I was like, you could tell that the actor that played him was practicing a lot, and he really like fully stepped into it, and I appreciated it. And in general, I think it also just shows like how much Days is really embracing its camp angle, which is something that GH, I feel like, really leans away from. Like, Tracey, you were just talking about the mob and how it's not really working anymore on GH. And I totally agree. I think there was a point in the like in the 90s and the aughts where that criticism was still alive, but there were still like fresh storylines that to be told about the mob. And now we're kind of at this place where not only have we told all the stories that we really can tell, especially since we're dead set on making Sonny this like mobster with a heart of gold, right? We can't really get into like what it is that he does. He doesn't move drugs. He doesn't move people, I'm assuming. Like he doesn't move, like what is it that this mobster does? We can't really get into it because otherwise he can no longer be this like main character, this hero on the show. But also like soaps that are trying to play too much into the realism bit at this time of streaming, where there are so many options of what to watch. There are so many really good high realism TV shows about things like the mob that it just doesn't work. Why would you want to watch a realistic mob show, a realistic, gritty mob show on daytime when you can watch something like that that's actually very high quality, high production value elsewhere? Like when I watch a soap, I want to watch camp. I want high drama balanced with emotional honesty. And I also want some love in the afternoon. I want sexiness. There was one episode where like we saw like 3 or 4 different couples start to get it on. And Tracey and I were like, I don't know how to handle this anymore because this never happens on GH. And Ciara and Ben, who are like the hot couple, young couple on days, were just like constantly naked, constantly in bed. And when they weren't in bed, Ciara like doesn't wear clothes. And you know what? Good for her. Good for her. I just kept on yelling, good for her. You don't wear clothes, girl. Don't wear them. I understand just from like commentary that there's like some criticism of the couple. I can't really speak to that. Although I did do a Wikipedia deep dive before watching Beyond Salem, and I was like, oh, I had no idea Ben used to be a serial killer. Awkward. But there were even a couple moments in Beyond Salem where that was like winked at, or like, didn't you kill some people? Oh yeah, sorry about that. Like Ciara being like, he's different now. Like I appreciate that kind of balance between, yes, you're rooting for this couple, yes, they're sexy, yes, there seems to be some real emotional honesty in their performance, like you feel like that genuine connection, and like let's go ahead and recognize this is a soap. This guy used to be a serial killer. He killed he killed Will, who then turned out to not be dead, and then now they're best friends, and Will was actually the best man in their wedding.
Very sweet.
I love it. I love it in part because it's actually like, let's just lean all the way in and we're willing to put up with a lot for some chemistry and some sexiness. So maybe my love of Beyond Salem is also just like colored by my dissatisfaction with GH, but I just kept turning to Tracey and being like, the show that we've been watching is bad. Why is this so good? And what we're watching is so bad. That's what I got.
Tonya, I feel like you have some takes. I want to hear them before I say anything. Because like you didn't watch it, and so your face was like, what the hell did y'all just watch?
Like, wait a minute. So he killed somebody who's not dead, and it ends up being his best man.
Yes.
It's actually Will, who is one of the characters in the gay storyline in Beyond Salem. Yes.
That's great.
I remember as a child, I was like, oh shit, this is Will. Oh, okay.
And what I liked about them bringing Will back is that there was such an uproar when they killed Will. Like people were like, you killed Will? Like what the hell? And they were just like, great, let's just undo it. Will, he's alive. Versus like when Emily and Alan, when they killed Emily and Alan, instead of just like bringing the characters back and like having some kind of stupid explanation for it. They had Alan come back as a ghost, which was awful. And then they had Emily come back as Rebecca.
Rebecca, yeah, that was weird.
They should have just brought Emily back.
When they have like a built-in excuse for everybody they bring back, you just blame Helena.
Yes.
Yes.
It's so easy. Y'all bought
they did it with Robin.
You brought back Jake after like his organs had supposedly been like given to Joss. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you can't bring back Emily. Like, it just, I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't understand it. But go ahead. I want to hear more of your takes from just this, Tonya.
I was just reacting to the stories. That was crazy, but I think you're right. I think, you know, we as soap fans, we can forgive or just, you know, as long as you're not like making us think we're crazy, we can forgive a lot, right? So if you rewrite history and pretend like it never happened, then we're not in on the joke, right? We're not in on the, you know, the campiness. But when, you know, if you do something like what Days has done, and it's just like, okay, we're responding to you because you guys didn't like that Will's gone. Okay, we're bringing him back, and you're just we need you to believe this story because these characters are great actors and, you know, they have great chemistry. Then it's different, you know? And so I think that's something that the writers aren't necessarily, one is that they're not giving us the credit that we deserve, and knowing what, as longtime fans, knowing the history of characters and knowing, you know, their temperament and what's supposed to be happening versus what Days is doing, you know, because I think that there was a similar, I think, gradual, I think a change a little bit in, I think a lot of us were forgiving, some of us, or a lot of fans forgave Franco for his past. They wrote a story. They said he had a brain tumor. So now he's going to be a good person. Why? Because we all love Roger Howard, and he and Elizabeth had great chemistry. So they figured it out and it was okay. And so I think that's that kind of thing that GH is not doing enough of. So yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And even killing Franco was stupid. Like,
Right?
what was the point? Like, y'all didn't even give Elizabeth like a real chance to grieve. You didn't give her a meaty storyline afterwards. You kind of just gave Cam that really dumb storyline that ended up putting him on ice after. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't good. It's just not good.
And it wasn't good, and it was done to serve another character who we hate.
Exactly.
That was the worst part. Like, we sacrificed a great relationship between Elizabeth and Franco just so Peter can have somebody to murder. That wasn't great.
Call him Pete. Fuck him.
Pete.
Pete.
Damn it, Pete. That's his name now.
Pete. Like, we hate him. But I think the other thing with Beyond Salem that was like, so for me, like, I'm like old school, like grew up watching Days in the Womb, you know? And I actually got into the ABC soaps when I was in college because there was only one TV in our lounge. And so everybody else watched the ABC soaps. And so I had to like get into it. And so that's also why I have like such an affinity for like Maxie, because she was like originally a Days person. When they brought in Patrick's brother, like they were like a young Days like super couple that came from like both like two legacy characters who got together. I think that like the recast of them are still together on Days. They've been on and off, but they're together on Days now. And so I think that's something that they've really done well, is like make a matriarch like the point of the show, which in Marlena, and it really for me speaks to like how Laura should be that for GH. Like Laura should have like meaty storylines that she can like specifically sink her teeth in. And I know that like I liked the storyline with like Kevin and like Brian and like Ava, but that wasn't Laura centric in the way that like the possession on Days right now is Marlena centric. I also think that like I was like watching a couple of clips of like Marlena and Doug, and like all of these like older, like veteran characters having like really important points in this story. And so like the nostalgia for somebody like me who hasn't really like committed to watching Days since like the 2000s are like, oh damn, like these people are still here, this is really exciting. And GH has some of those people, and they only trot them out for really small things. Like Lucy Coe is still there. Like, why do we only see her like sparingly? I don't really care for Scott, but I think he's funny. We should like there needs to be like more of a respect for veterans, and for like those legacy soaps. Like I can't imagine Days killing off the Brady line. Like that just wouldn't happen. And so in the ways that like GH has like facilitated the killing off of the Quartermains and not done enough to like build them back up. I mean, that's probably why Wally Kurth like comes back, because otherwise like there's no patriarch for the Quartermains. Like, you know, so Wally Kurth like spends his time between Days and GH. Just like and I think the Austin thing is not enough. I think that they should retcon some of the Quartermain deaths and bring some folks back and just blame it on Helena again, because they can. And I think the other thing is to Sandra's point about like some loving in the afternoon. And that was like my point to like Sasha and Brando, who were like the kind of sexy, like young couple. Because I mean, as much as people say, I like Sprina as like their children, you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm probably going to be weirded out when they do whatever, which is fine. You know, when your kids get it on, you just like feel weird about it. And there needs to be like those mid-20s, early 30s couples who you're able to root for, who like are in love, who do have that fun and who do have that romance. Because right now GH is all angst. Like, who is happy? You know what I'm saying? Like, which is why we laugh at like really small moments. Like the moment between Finn and Austin was like kind of funny. The moment between Epiphany and Valentine were kind of funny, but like those are the moments. Right now, I don't even see any fun on the horizon. It just all feels like angst. And that's actually not like what I watch soaps for.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out like who's like is there a GH equivalent of Sin, a Ciara and Ben? And we were like, is it Sasha and Brando? Are they the closest thing? Because I will say I did enjoy their Titanic car sex scene. Like I was like, we didn't see any of it, but it was hot, right? Like literally there was steam in there, and everyone loves a Titanic handprint throwback. I mean, that lets you know that something good is happening behind that glass. So yeah, I think that even if Sin isn't your couple that you would root for if you're like a Days viewer, and you can see that element that they bring of like what they represent is super important in a soap opera, and we do not have that at all at GH. And don't even try, Willow fans. Don't try me. Don't invite that comparison. It's not going to look good for you. Just
I
don't.
know if you want to see Willow naked half the time.
I mean, and it's just like that's not the way they play them.
Yeah, they're just
Not, like,
not that Willow is unattractive. That's not what I'm meaning. It's just that that's not what we know them for or what we're interested in. Or
they tried to push that though. They've been trying to push that, like sex, like they've been the couple that's actually been having like quote unquote sexy scenes, and it's not accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. I will say that.
I think that the other thing is I am looking forward to not being able to use COVID as an excuse anymore for when things don't work to change course. Because I think that GH has done that in the past. Like when things don't work, they're like, you know what? Okay, people don't like this. Let's scrap it. Milo is one of those things that doesn't work. They don't have chemistry. It's not fun. It's not cute. It's all about their baby. Let them raise that child together and like let them go be with people who make them more interesting, because it just doesn't, it's just not there. And it specifically is not there because we have seen them both be more interesting with other people. And so we're supposed to believe, I mean, I've said this before, and I'm sure we'll continue to repeat. Like, that was like what made Nicholas and Emily, when it was back when it was Tyler, like almost compelling or interesting or believable, because you were like, oh shit, this is some chemistry. Even when I went back and like watched the train crash episodes, like even before they were supposed to have chemistry, like when she was like laying up on them and they were like, I was like, okay, Tyler and Becky, I see what's going on here, y'all. Okay. So like it's believable that they would like be so overwhelmed with emotion and so overwhelmed with attraction, and like they left like caution to the wind. When they tried to do that like Milo sex scene at Wiley's birthday party, which was already weird in itself, it was not believable that they were like just throw caution to the wind like that, like because they just don't have that sizzle or that spark. And I think the same thing goes, to be honest, I don't actually know what they're trying to accomplish with Cam and Joss, but I think that same thing can be said for them. I remember at like the not Jarly wedding, when Joss was like basically saying she doesn't know if she'll find love again. And then like all of a sudden it switched to like she's about to have sex with Cam. Like, I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish now. Are they in love or are they not? Because like, you could have first love storylines, even though Cam, I guess, wouldn't be her first love. You can have that storyline, you could have them whatever, and then decide they're better off as friends. But their storyline is not actually even written to be compelling. What is compelling about Sprina, aside from the chemistry, is like the angst and the buildup and the storyline. So even when people try to like swap out and be like, oh, well, maybe Spencer and Joss could be together, it's not that same angst. It's not that same, like that doesn't even exist for them. So what is like exciting for Sprina is not going to be exciting for Joss and Spencer. And yeah, so they're just like not writing couples to be good. They're not writing them to be interesting. And they're not reversing course when they don't work.
Yeah. And like Days is in a pandemic too. Like it's not like it's just GH. Like every show is in a pandemic and is like trying to find ways to still make the story work. And I just, it's clear that there's more going wrong behind the scenes than a pandemic, because consistently what GH has become known for outside of the fan base is behind the scenes crazy bullshit.
I was so embarrassed to be like, people were like reaching out to me like, don't you watch this show? Steve Burton was like in People, he was on TMZ. I was like,
right.
I was like, people know I know you. Stop being embarrassed. People associate me with you. Stop.
Versus like, I want to be associated with a possession storyline. That's what I stand for.
Yeah, and GH is known for being in People and all these other magazines because of the story, not because of the actors. They were on the cover of these magazines because of Luke and Laura. We don't even have a story that garners the attention of anyone outside of that. And that's a shame. When you are known more for your behind the scenes stuff than your actual stories, that's sad. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think even Y&R got pressed because Victoria was getting married. And they featured her wedding dress and all that good stuff. But not because the actors were acting stupid.
I feel like the Jarly wedding was in Entertainment Weekly, but fans were just like,
yeah, and let's not even talk about GH weddings. My God, this year, so like the funerals were more cheerful than the weddings.
Who else got married besides Jarly? I don't even know.
Well, Anna and Finn tried to get married.
Was that last year or this year?
This was the beginning of this year. It was around February.
Okay, it was Peter.
Yeah, Peter, Maxie, the double wedding, Jarly, Chase and Willow.
Damn, I forgot about that.
Ooh, that Chase and Willow wedding was so bad. It was the Scott's tots of weddings. My God.
I had to shower afterwards. I felt dirty.
when Chase dropped the wedding ring and Michael picked
Can
it
you
up.
can you put the ring on her for me? I mean, what the hell was that? There's nothing wrong with your hands, dude. Put the ring on.
So bad. And
I
then
was-
like that's the other thing. There's not fallout that matches the buildup of the storyline. And I think that's the other thing that I want to see more of with GH, or not more of, actually see in GH, is like things. I've talked about this so much before, but I'm going to just say it again. I know I've talked about it a lot. I talked to Sandra's ear about it. The Nixon fall story, like part of the thing is like, I kind of understand how things happen where you like put a storyline up on the board and you're like, okay, this will be a good storyline, and then somebody has to fill it in. And so I think that there are storylines that have been fine, they just were filled in wrong. And they didn't like feature the right people. They have so many talented people, and some people are like, oh, the cast is bloated. And it's not that it's bloated, it's that they don't work together. So I think about something like a Nixon Fall storyline, for example, that could have been, okay, Sonny had this amnesia, and then Nina found out. It didn't have to be months. When Lenny got sick, they could have brought Lenny to Port Charles for healthcare from Terry, because she is like a world-class oncologist. And so then Sonny could have still had amnesia in Port Charles. Everybody could have still been seeing Nina as a pariah, but they still could have been falling in love because Sonny didn't know. And then you still could have had a lot of that same storyline and brought new people in, and it would have been dynamic. But instead, you had him away all this time. And so part of the reason that Sonny and Nina don't work for me, aside from the fact that Nina is my enemy, is that it's been going on so long. Like, who cares? Like, I'm just over it. Like, put them together or don't put them together. But like this like ongoing thing, we've already had to do so much of it when Nixon falls that this is no longer even compelling. And to know Sonny is like, Sonny could still be mad at Nina. Sonny could be angry, throwing barware. And I actually would have been more compelled by the storyline if Sonny was like really mad at Nina and the passion swooped him up, and that's when they slept together. Because that's a very Sonny thing to do. Now, this like emotional affair that he's having with Nina is actually grosser to me than if they were having a physical affair, to be honest, because it's also gaslighting Carly, and I don't like that. So
let's go ahead and just transition into hot takes, since that's where our hearts seem to be taking us.
where our hearts have led.
Yes. Thanks, Days, for the inspiration, but also, how dare you? How dare you be a soap and make us see how good our show could be, but instead we are watching this bad hospital show. And I love it still, but damn, it's been bad.
It's been in
Good
my
luck
life.
to all involved. I am involved.
I've been watching this for almost 20 years now. I can't give it up. It's like a bad relationship. We're in it together. It's cheaper to keep her.
Okay.
Y'all got some
Let's see. I can start with a couple. Gladys was great. I'm so confused. And also, I'll take it. I think in general, the Corbin family moments were like, all of my notes have like a million question marks after them. The Corbin family moments were shockingly touching this week. But is that because the show was bad otherwise? I don't know. But I thought Sonny and the scene between Sonny and Brando, even though I'm still confused about how invested I should feel in this relationship. They seem to play it up as like a more deep and meaningful relationship than we've actually seen, but that worked. That really worked. And as mad as I've been at Mo lately, Mo can act. Epiphany not fucking with Valentine had me rolling. And then transitioning to her gentle support of Brando, which was so sweet. And I miss Epiphany. I'd love to see more of her on this hospital show. I want Austin and Olivia even for just a one night stand. But we also know I love to troll on Ned, so I want it. I love the surprise Vanna moment. Like, I wasn't expecting to see them interact, so I appreciated that Anna knew something was wrong with Bay. It was a little bit of something to get because you know, it was a hard week for us shippers, or us shippers that have taste anyway. Why the fuck was Peter able to call Maxie? Why? That was so ridiculous. And not ridiculous in like a fun, campy way. It was ridiculous in an infuriating way. No sign of life. Jet tunnel endgame. And finally, nobody, not even Jocelyn, gives a fuck that Jax is leaving. And I love it. That's it.
I love every piece of it.
The only new thing which caught my ear, which I thought was hilarious, was Christina comes home for Christmas. I was like, I was like, is this like a future thing? Is this a prediction? Because I did hear she was coming back. Is that when she's coming back for Christmas? Oh, that was so tongue in cheek. It was like, they know we want her back. Just throwing us a bone. That's funny. It was hilarious.
I have some hot picks. I agree, Tonya, when I first saw that, I was like, Christina. And I had to Google, like, oh, that's actually a movie. Okay.
But still, it was funny.
It was still funny, but I had no idea that was even a movie. My hot takes. The tunnel is COVID and only the vaxxed get out.
Yep.
Brasha is doing what needs to be done. You go, Brasha. Liz is stronger than Brando? Question mark. Like when Liz like kicked Brando out of like the operating room, she like pushed him like a linebacker. I was like, okay. When Laura Wright gets her scripts, how much of it is just the word Nina? The other woman that Drew Lavery was talking about, Holly or Hayden? Question mark.
Aiden.
I think so too.
Holly has long COVID.
Oh, does she?
She's
the actress that plays Holly has long COVID, and that's why she hasn't been back to the show.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to all involved. What Sasha did is not like what Nina did. I don't want that comparison. It's just not. It was very weird for Sam to tell Dante, I'm sorry, about their shared brother.
Yes. Strange.
That might be I think those are my only hot takes from this short GH week.
I like Sante?
Question
marks? Yeah, I like them. Which just makes me feel like they're gonna get crushed by a Drew love triangle and or Lulu returning, and I don't want either of those things.
I don't want Sam and Drew. I don't want Sam and this Drew. If it was Sam and Billy Miller, I'd be like, yes, let's do it. I don't want Sam and Ryan Lavery. Like, keep it. And I was struck by how much I liked Sam and Dante because I realized that I've actually never liked Dante's pairings. I didn't like Dante and Lulu because I don't like Lulu. I didn't like even like people always are like, oh yeah, maybe you like them better with Julie Berman. No, I've actually just never. I think there was I think that the way towards the beginning of their relationship that Lulu like forgot about family for Dante, like just always has left a sour taste in my mouth. And I'm not saying that you have to love Carly or whatever, like or Sunny, but these people have been like family to you, and to pretend like they haven't been for like some dude you just met, like it just never left a good taste in my mouth. So I think that those actors had chemistry. I just was never like invested in their storyline. And then the second Lulu, I actually didn't even think they had chemistry.
No.
I hated Lulu after she found Dante, because exact same reason that you're talking about. And she became very self-righteous and just did not like her. So yeah, I do like Dante and Sam together. That's all I got. That's good. So
yeah, I liked Dante and Lulu with Julie Bergman. Although upon rewatch, that Lulu is still annoying, but not as annoying as the second Lulu. But I think I liked them because of their chemistry, and I liked them because I like Dominic. I think that he's got he's just like very grounded actor. He's got a nice range. He's cute and like has that. I also appreciate getting to see that old like Dante like cocky charm that he had when he first got with Lulu. But now he's like an adult, a grown up, and so it hits a little bit different. Yeah, I just think that they're both like solid actors who seem to like really have an affinity for each other, and I wish that they actually had a compelling storyline. Because I think that they have potential.
I'm really into like Dante's new hair. I think he looks very handsome. I think him and Sam look really good together. So yeah, I am nervous about what they're gonna do. And I think that that really speaks to there not being enough couples on GH. Like they're not people who are actually together that we're rooting for. We're actually rooting for like future couples. And so the couples that are actually together are not getting screen time. So we haven't gotten Dante and Sam together. We haven't gotten the Brasha like being together like they should. Yeah, I mean, the people that we see are like Milo, and nobody cares about that, or at least I don't care about that. We just don't have enough couples to root for. And the ones who are together, who are not those two, are like also in transition. So we know that like Carly and Sunny are in transition. We know, I'm sure Ned and Olivia are in some sort of transition.
I don't believe in Finn and Elizabeth. I think
no.
Yeah, something's gonna happen, and it's not them together. So
please, this is a very easy thing to course correct around, y'all. They haven't even gone to trivia night. They can just
still haven't got a trivia night yet.
They did that with like Alexis and Finn, right? Like where they were like playing with getting them together, and then they ended up putting him with Finola.
Yeah,
you can do it. And then they were friends, and they had a lovely friendship. And Finn and Elizabeth could do that, or they could just, not.
Well, I mean, Finn and Elizabeth can end as soon as Pete waltzes back in the hospital, and then they really see that he's alive, and then Finn can get over his guilt and hang out with somebody else. Pete destroys everything in his wake. Like he's just
Pete Ramsey.
I don't understand how his fellow actors don't laugh in his face. I'm choosing violence right now. I went back and we watched a playlist of like Vanna stuff, and like the transition between when he was like Peter and like kind of dopey and like was in love with Maxie, so when he went full villain, I would have laughed in his face. There's no way I would have made it through those takes. What are you doing? What are these choices? It's bad. And he just continues to be there, and they continue to prop him up like he's good, as opposed to like him being cartoonish as he is. It's actually disrespectful to who Faison was. It's disrespectful to all of the characters who continue to get outsmarted by him. I hate it. Oh, final hot take. I want to see Brando and Spencer scenes. Like if they're going to really play up this Corbin energy, I would love to see them be in relationship with each other. especially because I've actually been disappointed in the Sunny Spencer scenes lately. I'm hoping that Sunny stops being so self-righteous and we're able to get a little bit of that like kind of playful, loving uncle energy back between the two of them. I get it. I understand why, like, I guess the first couple scenes need to be the way they are, but I would love to see them have that relationship back. And especially as Spencer is like transitioning away from like his father, because you know his daddy don't deserve him. I would love to see like him be closer to Brando.
I would have loved in that Spencer and Sunny scene when they were talking about when Sunny was like, why did you do this? Like, why did you denounce your title? And he was like, oh, a friend told me. And Sunny was like, oh, he or she, and Spencer was like, she. And I was like, I wish you had just said it was Trina.
Yeah, because Sunny
wish you just said it was Trina. I mean, because I really wanted Sunny to just be like, oh, Trina? Yeah, always listen to Trina.
Yeah, and then he could have been like, you know what, I'm feeling kind of sketchy about Esme. I think you should drop her. I mean, that would have been great if for him to give him some advice on how to be with Trina, and you know, dropping Esme because she's a bad look. That would have been great.
I think that might come. They maybe just aren't ready for that in the storyline. But I still want it now.
Yeah, because at court, Sunny was kind of like, I'm trying to talk to you without her.
Mm-hmm.
And Spencer was like, she can stay. And even Esme was like, I'm bounce.
I feel like those scenes all around the Sprina, that Sprina week, God, it feels like such a long time ago, but it was just the beginning of the month. God, that was such a blessing. But it felt like all the scenes where Spencer and Trina were in together were all about how amazing Trina was, even when she wasn't named in the Sunny scene. So I did appreciate that, like the effect got through, but I still want, especially since the scene where Spencer confesses, and as he's leaving, or as Sunny's leaving, he thanks Trina. Thank you, Trina. It's evergreen content.
It was, yeah, that was my favorite. It was really funny. I also want to say that I just want to name two things. So one, the polls that like are like, what was your favorite couple? And it's like Vanna and Sprina are always number one. I actually am like, why are we pitting two bad bitches against each other? Like, it's both. And actually it speaks to the strength of the show and of couples when you were able to have like veteran actors come together in this like kind of sexy and fun way. Because I don't think a lot of other mediums allow like people above 30 to be sexy together. And so like to have Valentine and Anna be like that like spark of a couple is really important. And I think the angst and the longing and the potential of Sprina is also important. And so for me, I don't think it's like a either or. I think it's a both and I think that those are the two couples that are carrying the show.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel the same way. Like everyone's like, don't make me choose. I like both of them. They're both needed and they're both so good. I will say, to be positive, one of the reasons why the rest of the show feels so bad is also like Sprina and Vanna are so good. Like they're not just good because the rest of the show is bad. Like they're legitimately some of the best couplings the show has done in years. Like I haven't felt this invested. It actually takes quite a bit for me to ship. I can enjoy couples, but for me to be like, I am actively supporting these two couples, that's a lot.
Yep, for sure. I think my only ships from GH are Emily and Nicholas and JCM. And those are the only couples I've ever like, I've enjoyed couples. I've been like, oh, this is really cute together. But the ones I've like actively like been invested in and like watched clips of have been those two. Yeah. And then I also want to just like say, I wanted to talk about, I posted a clip of Sandra talking about like Sprina and like witnessing Trina like longing for Spencer. And that got like kind of controversial, which was interesting. People were like not happy about the idea that Trina would like long for Spencer, and that would make her look kind of like weak or pathetic. And I just like totally disagree with that. I think that I think the making of a super couple is the angst and the longing. And the look back that we had from Trina at the art exhibit was the first sign in a long time that we had that Trina was bothered. And so you actually can't go, or you shouldn't go from into rooting for this couple if Trina doesn't want to be in the couple. And so this was like the first time that we saw that she wanted to be into it. I do think that there's like a delicate balance to walk, so that she doesn't look like, pathetic in people's words. I don't think Trina Robinson could ever look pathetic ever, but she's 18, y'all. Like, this is what happens. This is what happens when you're 18 and you do process with your best friend. If you have a relationship that you want to be in, or a person that you like, when you're 18, like, I just remember like processing with my best friend every time a guy who I kind of like looked at me. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do with your friends. And I think I don't want the show to like continue to use Portia and Trina and not Gladys, Portia, Trina, and Phyllis as like these sounding boards who don't have their own sets of emotions. Here comes Sunny and Nina to talk to Phyllis. Phyllis is still freshly grieving over her husband. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want them to turn into like just these kind of cyborgs who are there to support the characters around them without having like emotions for themselves. And it felt really important to me that like Trina had some emotions that were in line with her being a real teenager, and not with her just being like some magical like white person, sprinkling like feel good dust on them. I want her to be complex. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. I like feelings. I like feelings. They're not always going to be positive. They're not always going to be welcome, right? Like, one of the reasons why we haven't seen that from Trina is because she has been like saving face. She has been even hiding how she really feels from Joss. And actually a lot of the story has been about her holding back from Joss and Cam, who doesn't seem to understand that anything's happening, but I digress. And I don't want that for Trina. Actually, like, when I was 18, I was endlessly I was annoying the shit out of my friends, talking about the same ass, like, he looked at me like this, she looked at me like that, like, whatever. What does it all mean? And I don't need Trina to go to that extremes, because she's obviously already handling this much better than I would have at 18. But let her be soft and vulnerable, because that's also part of what makes a love story work. Like the badassness, yes, and also we're all complex people who are capable of both being badasses and of being hurt and of feeling things that we don't want to feel.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be just a one-sided love story. It shouldn't be just Spencer liking Sprina. She needs to like him back. And so we need to be able to see those scenes too.
I mean, I think there's like the complexity and the softness of her going off on him, and then when she sees his hand is broke, she's like, or hurt it. She was like, "Hold on, babe, let's look at this hand. We're gonna need this." You know what I'm saying? Like, we want that. And also, shout out to the fact that I bought this book.
Photo Arc Wonders by Trina Robinson. Thank you, Trina, for taking pictures of all of these endangered species. You are my favorite author. You are my favorite photographer, and you are my favorite National Geographic explorer.
That was very Oprah talking about Gail. She is my friend, my sister. This book is heavy as hell. I shouted it out last week, but I just wanted to like shout out the fact that I really did buy it. Like, thank you, Trina.
Thank you, Trina.
Is it really Saved by Trina Robinson on it?
No.
I was like, what?
By Joel Satori.
Yeah, I was like,
Actually, her nom de guerre, her, author name.
okay.
Until that episode aired, had we ever seen Joel and Trina in the same room? I think he's a rigger, personally.
And that's the kind of soap business that I'm about.
Well, they did have Molly being that romance novelist when she was a teen. So how do we know Trina hasn't been exploring the world and taking pictures? And she can do anything.
Shout out to Man Landers. Remember that?
Yes. That was really good. It was really bad. It was bad good.
It was amazingly bad good. Okay, and then I'm gonna stop with these random hot takes. These are just all the things that keep going through my head as I'm watching old episodes. Are we just never gonna talk about the fact that Brooklyn fake sung for Deception? You remember when she was like fake, when she was fake singing and like didn't Chase catch her or something?
Yes, I remember that.
It was like one episode of that. It was ridiculous, and I could have gone longer, to be honest, because it was so dumb.
I was disappointed at how quickly that story just wrapped up. I was like, what? I actually like this ridiculous trash. Give us more of the ridiculous trash that I want from Brooklyn and less of this.
Yeah. I don't want Brooklyn and Chase together, but I will say that this was the first week that I saw a little bit of like with the chemistry that other people were talking about. Like when Chase was kind of like, oh, if I would have known that you would react like this with this hug, I would have done this early, like whatever. Like that dopey whatever with Chase in Brooklyn. I kind of saw a little bit of it this week. I still don't want that for him because I want Chase to go be a sex positive hoe, but yeah.
It's never too late. It's never too late to be a sex positive.
Yeah, I mean, they're not together yet. He still can, go for what he knows. Elizabeth
doesn't know.
What he does.
Yeah, we want him to actually go for all of
doesn't know.
I know there are also some mature women on the canvas who could show him a thing or two.
And then we can go to my ultimate end game, Chikel.
Who?
Chase.
Michael and Chase, who I really ship.
Oh, okay.
Ship of my heart.
All right, let's get into some predictions. I don't have any. Tonya, then Sandra, if y'all have any.
Well, I don't have a prediction, but I have a behind the scenes thing that I just wanted to point out. So,
Yes.
So we all know Burton's out. And I read an article that threw me for a loop because there's an article by a blogger and the title of the article is Dirtbag of Daytime Television. Did you guys see that?
Oh, we did.
I was like, what? Wait a minute. He had a pyramid scheme? I was just like, are you kidding me? I mean, it was, I was shocked, but then I wasn't shocked because it just seems to go, because he had been, I think there was a time where I'm noticing how he was talking about working out all the time and you guys should work out too, or something like that. But I didn't know that they actually had the drink on the television show. I was like, what? That is crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, yeah, he was jerky for the past, I guess, year or so that I've been watching the show, but a history of being a dirtbag and a jerk, I did not know. So shout out to that blogger. Thanks for informing me. And yeah, good riddance, Bert.
Bert! Bert, I love it. I
was trying not to choose violence because I knew that if I got into Steve Burton slander, I was definitely going to get into some Marcus Coloma slander, and I was trying to hold it.
Well, I feel like you just looked at me like you just teed it up for me to start talking about Marcus. I just spit. My God. That's how I'm spitting, like, I'm so mad about
Getting angry at Marcus.
opening at the mouth. I will say I knew about the pyramid scheme, but not in that level of detail. So I appreciate like soap fans, and in particular that blogger, for just like putting it all in one place. Put it all in one place for us to always remember Steve Burton's a dirtbag. It's not just Jason that sucks. And I think like a lot of people have been trying to differentiate between Steve and Ingo, which, yeah, sure, you can differentiate. They are different. But at the end of the day, like, Steve was still putting people's lives at risk. He still chose not to get a vaccine that we actually need everyone on the planet to take to get out of this fucking pandemic. And I don't care if it's all my faves come out as anti-vaxxers, which they won't because they're not problematic like that. But like, if you are not team public health, I don't fuck with you. This is serious.
Period. And let's also talk about, look, I've been deep in vaccine stuff. Let's also talk about the fact that the government needs to free the patent. Like, this should not be something for profit. Public health should not be for profit. This should be something like the fact that we're like claiming fucking vaccine and pharmaceutical companies like they're gangs. Like, I'm team Pfizer over here, you're team Moderna. No, we need to have like the patent needs to be put out so everyone on the planet can be vaccinated. It shouldn't be that we're fucking throwing away doses over here and that people in other countries don't even have access to the first shot. That is, I mean, it is, I can't even find words for how fucked up that is. So yeah, I mean, and part of the reason I have all this like smoke for Marcus Coloma is because he makes choices. Like, he consistently like uplifts Steve Burton's bullshit, you know, like former Xander uplifted Steve Burton's bullshit. Somebody was like, who does this person, Chad Brannon, who does he play? And somebody was like, a dead character is who he plays. And I was like, that's all we got, because why are y'all, I don't have patience. And I think that we are long past the like West Wing Parks and Rec era of our politics where we can say, oh, I get along with you. It is not a matter of like taxes versus not taxes at this point, which is like what people tried to pretend like it was in like the 90s, right? Or in the early aughts. This is like actually public health versus not public health. This is actually like, I'm putting everyone around me at risk versus I'm not. And it's not cute, and it's not something that we can agree to disagree on. Because if you disagree with me, you actually agree with people dying, and that's like bigger than anything else. I know that there was like an article that they put out of like Bradford that does the podcast with Steve, and he was like, oh no, I don't agree with that shit at all, but we're friends and here's why. And I was like, oh, that's such a white guy thing to be able to do. It's like to be friends with someone who fundamentally disagrees with you on like really important issues. And so while there is a big difference between Steve and Ingo, I think that the fact that we continue to make it to no I think the fact that we continue to say that there is a big difference between Steve and Ingo is why there is no difference between them. Like, it is like the same shit. The fact that Ingo is like louder about it and says it in public doesn't make him like worse.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's easy for white men to say like, oh, we disagree, but we're still friends. It's because it's like, is your humanity being undermined by this person? Probably not. But is this person undermining the humanity of women, of people of color, of queer people, of trans people? Is this person possibly flashing white power signs while sitting next to a Black woman who's his co-star? Possibly.
Did this person say ghetto clanks and watermelon on a fucking podcast? That's when I saw fucking with Steve Burton. I was like, oh, I don't care how much I've ever liked Jason or had any affinity to Jason. And it just so happened I was lucky that Jason started to really, really suck at that point. Coincidence?
Even on the public health aspect, I mean, you're still friends with a guy who is running around unvaccinated. You have a family and you have kids. Are you letting this friend of yours near your family and kids?
And you're doing shows with him. They're still doing public shows.
Yeah. And so you're putting yourself at risk, and then you're bringing that to your family.
To everyone's family who goes to those shows.
Mm-hmm. So, but whatever. All right, predictions.
Predictions. I predict that Marcus Coloma World won't repost this. Marcus Coloma World, aka Marcus Coloma.
Wait a minute, does he have his own like fan account?
Tracey! There is
messy. You
there
guys
is
are
there is a fan account from Marcus's fan called Marcus Coloma World that he frequently reposts, and I just have questions about, is that him?
And guess what? If the show was better, and if Marcus was better, I wouldn't have to have this kind of slander. I think that we see like soap Twitter like breaking down and fighting each other. And if we had things to talk about besides behind the scenes stuff and personal shit, you know, I want to argue over storylines. I don't want to talk about Marcus Coloma reposting his own fan page. I don't want to talk about that. But here we are. Anyway, predictions.
I predict I'm going to hold back on my Marcus Coloma slander until he's back on screen again. Yeah. Did you have any predictions, Tonya?
Just the one where I think Valentine's going to go after the GH shares. Pretty much it. I'm just still like, I think we talked about this last week, but I'm just like, I don't know where GH goes from here as far as storylines and plot. Like, where do they go? The stuff is ending, and then what do you do now? So I have no predictions.
I have a few, but they're not great. There wasn't a lot to work with this week, and the spoilers for next week are kind of feel like more of the same, right? And a lot of stuff that folks have already touched on. Like Tracey, you talked about how a lot of next week is going to be about Jason, right? It's going to be about the fallout from Jason, people finding out about Jason, both the Quartermains, and then also like Sunny and Carly and co, and whatever their process is around accepting or denying that Jason's gone. So it's going to be a lot of fallout from No Cassadine Island, starting with, of course, Sante and Drew, which I'm looking forward to seeing Sam's reaction to Drew being alive. And even though I'm not into new dream, old dream only, I would look forward to seeing them in a friendship, a co-parenting situation. We're going to be seeing Quartermain and Davis Thanksgivings this week, which I'm really looking forward to. More of the Davis Thanksgivings. Again, I continue to be surprised at how excited I am about Alexis being out of prison. And one of the reasons why is actually seeing the Davis family as a whole unit again. So I think we're going to see Molly and Christina. I imagine that Sean might be with them as well, since TJ is at the hospital with Cat Daddy this week. And I wonder too if Curtis will show up to intervene there, and if he'll even make it to Portia's Thanksgiving, which we're also going to see a little bit of on screen. And that's like my one hope, that we might see a Trina sighting. But there are no teens spoiled for next week. So my dream is that we would see Portia, or we would see Trina at Portia's. I really want Spencer to be at the Davis family Thanksgiving. I would in general love to see more of Spencer interacting with Alexis's family, since she is the other Cassadine who has denounced her Cassadineness. But I do also wonder about Harmony possibly showing up at the Davis Thanksgiving. Since there has been a lot of mentions of Alexis kind of mentioning Harmony, Harmony mentioning Alexis, and some lead up scenes. So I would love to see that. And I think we'll also see more about the ramifications of the BLQ Valentine fallout. And yes, I don't know if Valentine will be able to get his shares back, because it seems like it wasn't like, I don't know if that was like, if they had ever had it in writing, the reason why she was giving the shares. It just seemed like kind of like a deal that they made that wasn't necessarily like legally binding. Like, if you give me this, then I will give you this. But I don't know, who knows? I'm not a soap lawyer, unlike so many people on Twitter. But I'm actually really curious about the ramifications for deception, because Valentine is their funder, and both BLQ works there, but also Maxie works there too. And so he doesn't know about Maxie's involvement, has pledged his fealty to her. Wow, Game of Thrones. But yeah, so I think that's another point of fallout that we haven't really thought about, but also deception's kind of been in the background. So those are just some of my predictions. Some stuff might happen next week. I hope that the holiday feel goods might happen, but mostly it's gonna be a lot of grieving Jason, and maybe some cat daddy, hat daddy, hat granddaddy stuff.
You know who won't be grieved? Jax.
Who?
Right, Jax.
You've heard of him?
I don't know him.
Maybe all the people who want Jason to be Cam's daddy will now want Jason to be Joss's daddy.
I would love that rewrite, to be honest.
That's all I got.
Right.
I just love the like deflation. Like, the show that we've been watching is
It's
gonna get better.
It is. There's only one way to go from here. From rock bottom.
Sideways.
I mean, there are more rocks beneath rock bottom.
The rocks that Jason got killed by.
Oh, the real performer of the week. Sorry, Tonya. It's gonna have to go to the rocks.
Right.
Or it's either going to the one tarot card, which was like left behind from Jason.
Right. And I don't know what that means. Does that mean that, you know, Peter's gonna make Drew evil again, and then he's gonna stay evil? I don't know what that means.
So there was another thing that actually reminded me of another prediction that I have. So when they opened up after the tunnel exploded, and like Drew was laying on the floor and Peter had the rock, and it looked like he was gonna like smash Drew's skull, and then they just like cut away and none of that happened. And I was so confused. It was also like I was already off work when I watched that, so I was a little stoned. So I was like, did something happen? Did I just miss that? But I actually, like, when I look back and put it all together, I was like, oh, I don't think that's just a continuity error, which is always possible on GH. But I think that Peter actually programmed Drew while everyone was passed out. And that that Drew is going to like kidnap Maxie or whatever when he gets, you know, back when he gets the opportunity. And that's part of why they also showed the card as like, oh, the deactivation card is missing ... what happened to the activation card. So that's my prediction.
Can they just go get another tarot deck?
I hope so, because there's plenty. I got some tomorrow. I got plenty.
Well, y'all, this is the end of an episode. We hope that we entertained you more than GH entertained us. Yeah. Do you have any closing takes for our hospital show, y'all?
Sprina, bring Sprina. Thank you.
Yeah. Sprina, Vanna. That's it.
Yeah. Shout out to the people that we follow on Twitter. If you follow our GH Initiative account, follow the people that we follow because they're amazing. And with that, we'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.
Bye.